All right, I'm going to start. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is Tuesday, December the 5th. This is the Public Health and Safety Committee. We do have a quorum with myself, council members Benton, Gregg, Huffman, Kimbrough, Nash, Preptice, Taylor, and Weiner. And then we'll add to those the list of attendees as people come in and leave. We do have, of course, a public comment period. Nobody has signed up for our public comment period, so we're going to go ahead and transition into our agenda. In the interest of the fact that I invited a guest, Diane Lance, to come and speak to us today, and I understand there's a lot of interest in discussing the TASER legislation, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and have the first two items on our agenda. And then we're going to pause the legislation. We're going to pick up, hear from Diane Lance in the Office of Family Safety. And then once her presentation is complete, we're going to come back and we're going to talk a little bit more about the TASER legislation. So just to give everybody a heads up on what's happening. So we'll go ahead and start with RS 2023-125 by Porterfield, Evans, and Allen. This appropriates a total of $170,000 from the juvenile court to various nonprofit organizations selected to receive Community Partnership Fund grants. Do I have a motion? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor? Anyone opposed? All right, thank you. You recommend approval. And we have added Councilmember Bradford. Welcome. Next, we'll move on to BL 2023-70 by Coupin, Evans, and Huffman. Amends Section 13.08.040 of the Metropolitan Code of Laws related to the offering of merchandise for sale on or near public property. Do I have a motion? It's been moved and seconded. All right, we also have an amendment. And so let me go ahead and recommend Councilmember Coupin to share about his legislation and his amendment. Oh, sorry, let me first of all remember to hit the board. Hang on just a second. Okay, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. So we are on take 3 of this legislation. I think we've got all the issues cleaned up, and so we do have an amendment that addresses the removal of the word services and then clarifies some of the language around public right-of-way versus public property. So everybody is in support. It feels like it is good and ready to go, and so I would ask that you support it.
All right, any discussion? All right, seeing no discussion, all those in favor of Councilmember Coupin's amendment, please say aye. Anyone opposed? All right, you recommend approval of the amendment. So now we're going to move on to the bill as amended. Any discussion on the bill as amended? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of the bill as amended? Anyone opposed? All right, you recommend approval. Congratulations, Councilmember Coupin. All right, with that, we're going to transition off of our agenda, our legislative agenda, and we are going to hear from Diane Lance from the Office of Family Safety. She does have a presentation, so she's going to come up here to the front, and then I will turn on her microphone. I think, let's see which one is the right one. See if that one works. Nope. Clerk 2.
Hello.
There we go.
There we go. All right. Wow. Blasted everyone's ears. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much, Councilmember Evans, for asking us to come in and present on what our department does. I'm Diane Lance, and sitting with me is LaToya Townsend in our office, who many of you may know because she often comes here for council meetings on grants and things of that nature that help our office run. I have about 20 minutes, I understand, to tell you all what our office does. We've learned over the years that our office is really different than a lot of normal departments in Metro government, and so we need to take a moment and make sure people know what we do. So when your constituents have a problem or there's a homicide in your district, that you know who to come to and what we can provide to help. So our department was formed in 2015 in the Carl Dean's administration. I had been on his administration for 6 years working on this type of work. And before that, I am a former prosecutor in the local district attorney's office, where my expertise was domestic violence, child sex abuse, and child homicides. So that's how I ended up in this work. So I have a little PowerPoint that sort of goes through our work, and hopefully we might have a little time for some Q&A. So this is our mission, which I'm sure you all know from every budget year you get this packet, but basically our job is to increase victim safety and offender accountability for victims of interpersonal violence, and we do that work at our 2 family safety centers. And we do that through advocacy, training, outreach, case management, and our multidisciplinary collaborative work. And then we also work to take care of our team, because it is tough work. Whoops. Wow. Okay. I don't know why it's doing the fade in and fade out, but these are the type of victims that our office serves. And so if you have constituents that are struggling with these issues, our Family Safety Center might be an appropriate place to send them. The vast majority of our clients are victims of domestic violence, but we also work with victims of sexual assault, human trafficking, child abuse, elder abuse, which does include vulnerable adult abuse, and stalking. So 92% of our clients' primary victimization is domestic violence. And we say primary because a lot of our victims come in with other types of victimizations. It's called polyvictimization, where you may come in about a domestic violence situation, but once we talk to you, we learn that you have also been a victim of child abuse and sexual assault. And so we try to address all those areas that you need our help with in the moment. 47% of all violent crime in our city is domestic violence. So that is taking up a large amount of police time. That's about 25,000 reports per year. Domestic violence homicides, which is really, the bottom line of our work. So when you look at overall homicide rates in our city, so take all the homicides, those percentages up there are the percentages of those homicides that were domestic violence. So on average, 15% of our city's homicides are domestic violence homicides. This is the leading, the weapons used to commit those domestic violence homicides. I believe this is looking at homicides since 2012. As you can see, the vast majority is done with guns, and that is a really high risk factor for a victim of domestic violence if there is a gun in the home. Children are not immune from these situations, so we wanted to make sure that you saw that child homicides and familicides do happen in our city. I know we had some in other states this weekend, and if it's over 4 or more people killed in one incident, that's considered a mass violence episode. And so some of those, a large number, I think 45% of mass violence is committed by, there's either the domestic violence victim is in that family or in that situation, or they're in the larger crowd as a whole. So this takes each year since 2012, and it shows you the age and the number of children involved in these domestic violence homicides and familicides. So we have a lot of approaches that we take to this really concerning issue for our city. One of the first things and primary work that we do is our crisis advocacy, and we do have a way of doing that 24/7. And our primary place of business for this work is the Family Safety Center, which opened in 2019. And if anyone has not been to the state-of-the-art building on Murfreesboro Road, we do invite you to come, and we will give you a tour, and you will be just so proud of Nashville and what we do in this area. So this is a little spot of what the building looks like. This is the living room. This is the main room that people see when they come into the building. You can see there's a place for children to play, and a really comfortable living room type space for families. So it feels very welcoming, and already your trauma is being reduced just by the setting you're coming into. When you come into our building on Murfreesboro Road, these are the type services that you get. We will do a needs assessment to anyone that you may send to figure out what their needs are. They may come in with one need, but then we find out they have food insecurity, and we're going to want to help with that as well. Maybe they don't want to go to a shelter because they think they can't bring a pet, so we'll talk to them about that. A danger assessment, and I'll talk more about this in a bit. We use a lot of tools to assess a victim's risk and danger. Orders of protection, safety planning, shelter placement, and emergency assistance. And then through our ARP funds, which we've been very fortunate and grateful to have, we've been able to do more than crisis intervention. Instead of just helping with the crisis and being done, unless they call us again, we have continuing client support services for our highest risk victims. And these are some of the things that we do there to highlight case management. And we also are really launching a lot of group sessions for survivors to come to, so people know that we're still holding their hand along this really complicated journey. Our second facility is in the Birch Building, and you can see where the arrow is on the left. It's in the Ben West portion of the Birch Building, and that's the Gene Crow Advocacy Center. And this is what that living room looks like, another really trauma-informed space for victims to come into. They're often very frightened when they come into a courthouse, which is large, institutional, and intimidating. And so the people that come to that center, which we call the JCAC, the whole purpose is really to make sure that when you come to court on your case of domestic violence, sexual assault, whatever it might be, as a victim of interpersonal violence, you're safe in the courthouse from your offender. And so you have a safe place to wait, and you have supportive services. So it used to be victims of domestic violence would just go on up to the courtroom and sit in the gallery, like the gallery we have here, with their offender intimidating them, the offender family members, gang associates intimidating them in the restroom, and victims would just leave. So now they can be safe and separate. You can also now get an order of protection from one of our advocates. We'll safety plan with you. We'll assess your risk and danger of being killed, and provide you with referrals, assistance, food bags, and things like that, and have a fun place for your kids to play while they're there. And kids, it's, our whole goal with children is making sure that they feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure at any of our buildings. And that is really a very strong ACEs approach to working with children and the type work that we do. Our second approach is to really focus on our highest risk victims and offenders and not treat every case as if it's exactly the same. So these are the highest risk types of cases. So if we see someone is being stalked as well as a domestic violence, that increases the risk of them being killed by 2 times. Sexual assault by 2 times. If the offender has access to a firearm, it increases the victim's risk of being killed by 5 times. Strangulation is one of our top tier things that we look for, and we have a lot of stranglers in our city. 7.5, threats to kill 15, and actual assaults or threats with the weapon 20 times the risk of being killed or seriously injured. We played a large part in getting the lethality assessment done in our city, where police now in every interpersonal violence and in every intimate partner domestic violence case, they ask a battery of 11 evidence-based questions that will determine risk. So you can see they're going to ask if they've been choked or strangled. They're going to ask about guns in the home, and then the police have a protocol on how they respond if that victim checks out to be high risk. So we look at every single one of those lethality assessments. We have a team that looks at all of them. That's 7,000 a year. And of those 7,000, 3,000 are considered high-risk offenders. And then we can't review 3,000 cases with our panels. So we look at the very highest tier risk, the ones we're most worried about, which is over 1,000 a year. And we send those through our multidisciplinary team that we lead that looks at how we can respond to the victim at a rate, to help the victim at a rate faster than the offender is escalating. That's the goal. And so that's a little bit about what we do. It's 64 case review meetings last year, so that's about average for the year. Our third approach is we look at the most deadly, we do extra effort on the most deadly risk factors on a more macro level. And as I said, firearms and strangulation are two high focus areas of our office in trying to work on and highlighting those victims system-wide. So 6,000, 49% of defendants and those who have an order of protection against them had access to a firearm. We get that information looking at the warrant or the OP petition or their past criminal record. And this is all 2022, and almost 5,000, almost 40% of criminal defendants or order of protection respondents have been identified as stranglers. So they have a history of being a strangler. That's a lot. And so we do a lot of work with our partners to highlight strangulations. We make sure everyone in the system knows if someone's a strangler, has access to a firearm throughout the court system, so we can increase the accountability in that area. 2018 to 2020, we reviewed all the domestic violence killers, and 36% legally should not have been allowed to be in possession of a firearm. So we work on a lot of firearm dispossession work. Ultimately, it's our courts to decide what level of accountability they're going to hold that the law is being followed. And we bring a lot of best practices to them and have a lot of suggestions in that area. We started the Firearm Dispossession Task Force in 2016. Again, it's a task force that works with a lot of the court system to try to improve the dispossession process. We developed the protocol, which is now being used by other cities across the country, and developed the model for court compliance dockets. The ironic thing about that is people come here to study our model for doing court compliance, and they're actually doing court compliance dockets, and we're not. So, so Knoxville and I think Shelby County has followed our ideas of what to do, but we haven't quite been able to get it done here in our city yet. OFS daily firearm guide. So we do a lot of work. We want to make sure people remember to talk about it. So we have police pocket cards that we hand out on firearms, seizure and risk, bench cards to remind everyone. It's easy on a busy docket to let something slip through. So to remind the judges to always ask about the firearms if one is supposed to have been dispossessed. And safety planning with victims on firearms, like showing them these diagrams, asking them, is there a firearm in your home? Which one of these firearms does it look like? Where is it? And letting police know those things. Another approach that we use is multidisciplinary teams. We can't do this work alone. And that's been really important, is to make sure that this field is not siloed. These are all our partners that include nonprofits, other governmental departments, medical service providers, and obviously our office. So example of a medical provider, we have worked on the Vanderbilt University becoming strong experts in strangulation and changing their protocol to how they're going to respond to strangulation cases, and same with EMS and EMT. So we're really proud of that work that we've all collectively done. We have these multidisciplinary teams. All of these in blue and teal are all the teams that we lead in our building to work on different high-risk factors. RISE is a program that we have had in the jail to work with female inmates. So when they come out, they don't become victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, or at least have the tools to try to prevent that or know where to go to get help. And the purple are other multidisciplinary teams that work out of our building, but we are not the lead agency. We are a participant. And then we have an interpersonal violence summit every year. Just had our second annual one last month, and that had, I think, over 80 or so, almost 100 people in this field come together and look at all of these areas of interpersonal violence and determine how we can do better, how we can reduce those gaps in victim safety and offender accountability collectively throughout the city. And that was a great summit that we had this year. We work really hard on leading and learning nationally. So that's another approach, is trying to raise the bar at all times of the work being done. Our office trained over 9,000 people, almost 10,000 people last year on all topics related to interpersonal violence for over 11,000 training hours. We do this across the state. So these are all the cities in the state of Tennessee that have gotten technical assistance from our office. And we are in charge, the state has put us in charge of hosting the annual Tennessee Family Justice Center Conference every year. Our third one will be this coming year. And we have also twice been chosen to host the National Family Justice Center Alliance Conference here in Nashville, which was really exciting. And these are other states that have come to Nashville to learn how we do different things, whether that be our departmental model to look at our Family Justice Center and what it looks like on Murfreesboro Road. A lot of people come to study our court-based Family Safety Center and our high-risk teams. Family Justice Centers are all across the country. Each one of those bubbles is where a Family Justice Center is. And again, their Family Justice Center is all about putting services under one roof. And these types of services are under all of our roof. And we do take a lot of effort to take care of ourselves in this work. So we have some wonderful support dogs in all of our facilities. And that's about it. Thank you. I hope I went fast enough for that.
You covered everything very well. So we have a few minutes for questions. I'd love to hear any questions that you may have. Let me recognize Councilmember Gregg.
Thank you so much for this needed and valued work. I really appreciate the safe space. My question is, do you only accept referrals through police reports in the judicial system, or can a potential victim contact you direct?
Yes, victims walk into our building. So sometimes police bring them, but the vast majority walk into our building, and we are open we have a nonprofit that works after hours, weekends, and holidays to do orders of protection, but the primary business hours, Monday through Friday, they get a larger, vast array of services. And again, it's walk in, no appointment needed.
And I'm assuming you do the same type of assessment that the police are doing on site.
We have a much more in-depth danger assessment that we use. Theirs is 11 questions. Ours, I can't remember how many. It's over. Yeah.
I'm sorry. The danger assessment, well, the lethality assessment that law enforcement uses was based on the danger assessment that we use in our facility, and we train hospitals to screen for should they see any patients who are experiencing interpersonal violence as well.
Excellent. I appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, other questions? I guess I have one. I wrote down a couple about what does that process look like when you're involved in it?
Okay. Hang on. I thought I had put in some more slides. So dispossession is what is legally required if someone has been convicted of a domestic violence offense or has a granted order of protection against them. By law, they cannot own or possess a firearm, and so they are required to fill out a dispossession affidavit stating that they have dispossessed of that firearm within a very short period of time. And so the gap there is a few things. One, it's an honor system. So right now you're being trusted to tell us if you have dispossessed, if you own a firearm, and if you've dispossessed of a firearm, despite there potentially being, valid information. Let's say there's information in an order of protection that you used a firearm, and then all of a sudden your affidavit says that you don't have a firearm, and that is accepted. You are allowed to dispossess to a third party. So if you filled out your affidavit and you say you dispossessed to a third party, we don't have a process yet in place to confirm that that third party is even allowed to possess a firearm, and that third party understands fully that they are not allowed to give the firearm back. So there are just a lot of gaps in the dispossession procedure. We do have some return check-ins about the firearm dispossession. Our office is reviewing every single case where a firearm affidavit of dispossession should have been turned in to see if it was turned in. Since we've been doing that, we do have a much higher success rate with those forms being filled out. So our goal now is to have those compliance dockets to ensure that the dispossession of the firearm has been done, certainly when there is information suggesting that there might still be a firearm in the home.
Councilmember Allen, you had a question? There we go.
Thank you for letting me ask a question. And does Metro have the authority to pass amendments to the current dispossession law and suggest that maybe they need to turn that into the police or someone that you can verify easily with?
So there's some things that need to be resolved legislatively at the state, and there have been some efforts to do that. But But I think that some of these things go down to what is and what is not within judicial discretion. And so I think that Metro Legal is probably the best authority to make a determination, are these compliance hearings, within or not within judicial discretion to do that. Other counties like Knoxville and Scobey, after following our model, have determined that it is within judicial discretion to make that determination. Nashville is only one of 13 states that allows domestic violence abusers to transfer those firearms to a third party. Which is, you have to turn them over often to a law enforcement agency, and some allow it to a gun shop, I think, is another avenue.
Thank you, Councilmember Allen. I had a process question. So when you were referencing about strangulation being something that's known throughout the process, and so I went to domestic violence court. So basically anybody that didn't show up or any one that was accused, I should say, if their victim didn't show up, the accused is there, the judge knows, like, this person had a strangulation background as part of their disposition of their case. Mm-hmm. Is that true?
What? I'm sorry, I'm missing the question.
Yeah, the question is, would the judge is aware, like if I'm a victim and I don't show up, but the person that is charged with the crime shows up, the judge is aware of the strangulation side as part of what they do, and so I guess my question is really around people that left the courtroom without any consequences.
Yeah, that would not be something that the judge would know. The district attorneys would know that. The district attorneys, the assistants, work out of the JCAC in the first thing in the morning, and we provide them with a stamp to be able to stamp every strangulation case or every history of firearms, because as a former prosecutor, I know a busy docket is really hard, and it's easy to miss something, and so we want to make sure it's on those dockets, and then we also have it written on our whiteboard where they sit, which are the highest risk cases, so they know which are the stranglers and which have risk of firearms. So yes, the ADAs definitely do know, but that wouldn't be appropriate for the judges to know that at that time.
Thank you for explaining that to me. I really appreciate it. Sure. How about any other questions from anyone here? One thing I will say is I did get a chance to tour the Office of Family Safety, and it is really impressive, and it's amazing. Honestly, it's so amazing that you go, are we at a Metro building, because it looks so good and it's so it's just so impressive. So I would encourage you to take Diane's offer to come and see it if you haven't, because I was really impressed. So thank you very much for having me for the tour that you all did.
Thank you all.
Yeah, any other questions? All right, well, Ms. Lance, thank you so much. Thank you both for coming and sharing information with us.
Thank you.
All right, now we are going to transition over to our last piece of legislation. This is BL 2023-113. It is Porterfield, Evans, Johnston approves amendment number 1 to contract number 6488663 between the Metropolitan Government of Nashville and Davidson County and Axon Enterprise Incorporated to add an optional renewal term of up to 120 months and to increase the value of the contract. Do I have a motion? All right, it's been moved and properly seconded. I understand that we have a substitute from Councilmember Toombs. Do we need to move the substitute? Okay, can I get a motion on the substitute, please? All right, it's been moved and seconded. So the substitute is on the floor. This is substitute ordinance number BL 2023-113. With that, I will recognize, well, actually, is our sponsor here? Oh, you're going to take it. I'll pass it over to Councilmember Porterfield. And let me actually turn you on here. There we go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilwoman Toombs couldn't be here, so I'll just go ahead and stand in the gap for her. This substitute adds a reporting requirement to the legislation that will require MNPD to give data on a quarterly basis with regards to the use of tasers.
All right, very good. How about discussion on the substitute? Councilmember Kimbrough, you're recognized.
I just need clarification. So with the substitute, that's like, if it passes, then this will substitute.
It'll become the piece of legislation that we'll be deliberating on if it passes.
So the core exists, the basic part of it is just that Council Lady Toombs has added some additional requirements.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. How about any other questions? Councilmember Allen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question about the report. I can't remember if it specifically said that's a report that comes to the council specifically as a separate document, or that having all that information show up on the dashboard on a quarterly updated basis would fulfill that requirement in the same way.
Let me recognize Councilmember Darby, Director Darby.
It says specifically that as a report to the council, the form of the report is not stated in the legislation, but it would come at the end of each quarter.
All right, let me recognize Councilmember Porterfield.
Thank you, Chair. And I was trying to get that substitute pulled up. I wanted to make sure that it was out on the record. I had a meeting with Chief Drake and Deputy Chief Gilder, and in that meeting, this substitute did come up, as well as my late file substitute, which will be before the body on today. And they were supportive of both substitutes because it's, in essence, is just adding more transparency to the work that they're doing. They had no issues with it, so they were in support.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Porterfield. How about any other discussion on the proposed substitute? All right, we'll go ahead and take the vote. All those in favor of the substitute, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone not voting? Okay, we've got one. Okay, so we've got two that are not voting. We recommend approval. We also have a late filed amendment from Councilmember at Large Porterfield. Can I have a motion on the amendment, please? All right, it's been moved and seconded. Thank you. I'll recognize Councilmember Porterfield.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I will be I'm asking that colleagues support this amendment. What this amendment does is add some additional reporting requirements. When I dug into the dashboard, what I saw was that 44 individuals had been tased this year in 2023. Of those 44 individuals, 15 people were white, 28 people were black, which means that black people are getting tased twice the rate as white people, although the black community makes up about 28% of the population here in Metro. That was very concerning to me. I also saw data that showed that 6 children were tased under the age of 18, and the dashboard does not show the age of those children. So if you look at the dashboard, you can see the ages of everyone else that has been tased, but for the children, it just shows under the age of 16. So this amendment just asks that, or requires that MNPD provides a quarterly report that simply states the demographics of the individuals that they are tasing, so that they're sending that to council. If they've tased someone under the age of 18, that they're disclosing the age of that child so that the council could be cognizant of, the ages of children that are getting tased. And it's also asking the MNPD share what de-escalation techniques they use prior to using a taser. So with that, I ask my colleagues to please support the late filed amendment.
Thank you, Councilmember Porterfield. How about any discussion on the amendment? We recognize Councilmember Benton. You're recognized.
Yes, I just wanted to have a word from the police department as far as they're generating these reports and how we might receive them or how long it would be.
Yeah, let me go ahead and recognize Deputy Chief Gilder.
Thank you. Chris Gilder, Metro Police Department. So we currently produce a lot of reports, as you all are probably familiar with. We send some monthly to council. There's vehicle stops, there's crime in your district, and we also simultaneously publish those to our website, so they're available to anybody. We utilize the police data dashboard, as was referenced a minute ago, which is real time, within 24 hours, current data, so that you don't have to wait to find out, various things like traffic stops, crime in particular area. You can break them down by zip code, you can break them down by council district and all that sort of thing, and also use of force. So, Chief Drake, like Councilmember Porterfield mentioned, we're very supportive of being transparent with the data that we have. The only concern we ever have when it comes to data is if most of that stuff I have brilliant crime analysis people that write code to extrapolate that information from the data source that we have. When we get into specifics about what attempts were made to de-escalate or synopsises, then I have to have a person go by hand to go in through and do that, which is obviously time intensive, manpower intensive. And so that's my only concern with respect to supplying information about uses of force. It's public record. We supply it regularly. In fact, we post it on our website. But like I said, it's data points that we can kind of write code for and automate and pull that in and publish it.
Councilmember Benton. Oh, hang on just a second. There you go.
Could I get that data myself without having this amendment?
Yes, these are, that's public record. The only time information about a use of force is not public record would be if it's tied to a current pending criminal case. And even then, if it's anonymized data, then that's not an issue. But if you wanted a suspect's name and that sort of stuff, once that case is closed, though, that's all public record.
But I would be able to know if they were black or white.
Yes.
Or under 18.
Yes.
Okay. But anonymously. Redacted.
Correct. It just like on the dashboard, we don't provide names. It's aggregated and anonymous data, I guess is a better way to say it, not aggregated.
Okay. Thank you. Let me go back to you, Councilmember Porterfield.
Thank you, Chair. I want to clarify, in case there are any questions about what this is asking for. It asks for the age of an individual subject to a taser deployment who is under 18 years old. That information is not available on the dashboard. The dashboard, if you look at it, and I can show you from my computer, it says under the age of 18. It does not say whether we're tasing a 6-year-old or a 16-year-old, which are two totally different things. So we do not have a way, the public does not have a way, and this body does not have a way to see the ages of children that are being tased, which again, 6 children have been tased this year. Also, you cannot see the de-escalation tactics that were used prior to taser deployment. That information is not on the dashboard. So I do agree with Chief Gilder's assessment that you can see the demographic as far as age over 18, you can see the gender and you can see the ethnicity. However, you cannot see the other pieces that are asked for in this amendment. So again, I ask my colleagues to support this amendment for transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Porterfield. How about any other discussion on the amendment? Looks like I saw Councilmember Weiner. So let me grab you. Hang on one second. I'm sorry. I'm looking for you. There we go. You're recognized.
Thank you so much, Chair. I rise to support both amendments because clarity around what's happening is fully supported by your police department. I also rise to support the bill as amended, and my hope is that everybody else will rise to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Weiner. And Councilmember Huffman?
Thank you, Chair. Just speaking in support of the amendment as well, I think transparency is always good, especially when we're dealing with such public safety issues. Would urge all of my colleagues to support both as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Huffman. Any other discussion on the amendment? Councilmember Kimbrough.
I'm still a bit confused, Chair, and I need clarification. So Council Lady Toombs and Council Lady Porterfield have both done amendments to the original. Explain what are you doing? Can she talk?
Do you want to explain? Are you? Okay. Let me let Director Darby explain. Okay. Go forward.
So the substitute that Councilmember Toombs has filed was required to be a substitute because the caption has changed, because we're adding additional action to the substance of the bill. Then Councilmember Porterfield has sought to further amend the language that Councilmember Toombs has added. Therefore, it's an amendment that goes on top of the bill as substituted. So once the amendment, if the amendment were to pass, then we will be talking about a bill as substituted as amended. All things will exist together in one bill.
Okay, but the core bill would still be there, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, thank you. How about, let me get to Councilmember Porterfield. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to add one piece of clarity. The intent of this is to just add more reporting in the event that the bill, that it passes. You can support the transparency here and vote for it, and you still can vote against the bill as substituted if you don't support the bill. So this is just saying you support more transparency so that if it passes, the transparency is there. But you still will have the opportunity to vote up or down on the legislation once it's been substituted. Or now the substitute's already on, so once it's been amended, you still can vote the whole thing up or down.
Thank you. Councilmember Kimbrough.
So with doing that, am I saying I in some way support the core bill?
No, you're saying that you support, in this instance, the amendment, or you don't support the amendment by your vote. You're just voting on, do you want to add this, what's underlined on here? You're just deciding, do you want to support or not support what is included in the additional information that Councilmember Porterfield is trying to add. Does that make sense?
Okay, but in no way does it insinuate or infer that I support the core
right,
bill.
Because you're only voting on what is underlined here. You're not voting on the original intent of the piece of legislation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. How about any other questions? All right, let's go ahead and take the vote. All those in favor of Councilmember Porterfield's amendment, please say aye. Anyone opposed? Got one in the back that's opposed. Anyone not voting? All right. We recommend approval. Okay, so now we are on the bill as amended. All right, thank you. It's been moved. It's been seconded. Appreciate that. So let's open the floor for any discussion related to the bill as amended. I'm shocked that there's no, okay, Councilmember Prepty. I was going to say, if I didn't hear from you, I'd be totally shocked. So let me recognize you.
Full of surprises. Thank you, Madam Chair. First and foremost, what I want to do is provide some record of communications that or actually, let me back up. I've got a question for Axon's representatives who are here. It's my understanding that within the context of this contract, if approved, well, let's back up. So MNPD currently is operating the Taser 7. This contract would be for MNPD to acquire the Taser 10. My question is, and my understanding is that under this contract, MNPD would be giving back the Taser 7 for essentially a rebate on this contract of $2.6 million credit towards the contract. Is there any capability of retrofitting the Taser 7 that MNPD currently uses to be in line with the Taser 10, and what would that cost look like?
And would you mind, Mr. Axon, could you tell us your name and who you are?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And thank you for the question. And thank you to the committee for allowing me to be here to answer these questions tonight. My name is Josh Sparks. I am one of our national account executives here at Axon. And I represent the department. I was one of the direct representatives working with the department tonight. To directly answer the question, and I'm going to just rephrase to make sure that I've got the question down. You're asking if there's a way to retrofit the Taser 7 devices, which the agency is currently fielding today.
Correct.
The answer would be no.
Councilmember Prepty.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the questions that, so I met with MNPD earlier today, and one of the questions that I posed to them, because one of the one of the reasons why this contract has been proposed to us today is because there's been an understanding that's been articulated that the Taser 10 has a higher effective rate and would reduce the number of times or instances in which a taser has been deployed, has been ineffective, and then results in the need of escalating force. I spoke with Deputy Chief Gilder earlier today, and he knows that I was going to sort of read this question into the record. And so I understand that trying to pull that data would requires a lot more lengthy research. But for Deputy Chief Gilder, are you able to this evening, at least anecdotally, provide any instances that you have personal knowledge of where there's been a taser deployment, it's not been effective, and has with the Taser 7, which then requires an escalation of force?
Yes, sir. I can think of at least 2 incidents that involved subsequent use of deadly force because of, and let me be careful here. So when I say ineffective use of the taser, when I say ineffective, it's largely a function of either one of 2 things. Either the probes missed, I didn't get 2 probes in the individual and therefore did not get incapacitation, or a probe did not get embedded sufficiently. You know, in one of the cases, the subject it was very cold out, and the subject was wearing a jacket, and it got stuck in the jacket, but did not cause neuromuscular incapacitation, so it was ineffective. In both of those instances that I'm recalling, they were individuals that had edged weapons, which by law are a threat of deadly force. The individual with the heavy jacket actually charged the officers with the knife after the taser was ineffective, and the officers had to utilize deadly force to defend themselves in that case. And the thing about the 7 versus the 10 in those scenarios that I think is a game changer is the ability to individually target the probes and where they're going, and do that one at a time. And then on top of that, if you miss with the Taser 7, there is another cartridge in there. You have to do some physical manipulation to the device in order to allow to use it. These are all, the 10 probes are there and they are ready. So if I miss with the first probe, I've got 9 other probes. I fire the second shot, maybe it makes good contact, maybe the third one goes into a jacket, but doesn't. I have another, and I'm not having to physically do things to the device. Those probes are there and they are ready. And I can't help but think that that's, in situations like that can make a difference between saving a life.
Councilmember Prepty, you look like you have one more question on your mind.
I've got a great deal on my mind, but I'll try and limit it to...
Let me get you, and then we'll go to Councilmember Bradford next.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And this question might be for a representative from Axon as well, but has Axon done any research, or is there any medical data that has researched if there are any long-term health effects of the use of a taser on a person? So the individual who has had a taser used on them, is there any research about the long-term health effects that could potentially have on a person?
Yes, and just to reiterate the question again, so you're asking about long-term health effects overall or specific health effects?
So just in general, any health effects that can either be correlational or causational to having a taser being used on an individual?
Yeah, so the interesting thing about a taser device is it is the most studied use of force tool in law enforcement today. We actually index over 1,000 studies that we make public on our website. And this is both Axon funded and independently funded, peer reviewed, that all point to taser devices being the safest use of force tool in law enforcement today. So to directly answer your question, no, not that I'm aware of.
Thank you, Councilmember Prepty. Let's go over to Councilmember Bradford.
Thank you, Chair. I got 2 questions. The first question is about the number of units being purchased. It's my understanding, and someone from MMPD could probably answer this. My understanding is the reason why there's a large price jump between the two contracts is we are basically replacing every officer's equipment in MMPD plus the additional officers that have been approved. Is that a correct understanding? That we're doing all of this all at once.
Deputy Chief, do you want to?
Sure. So we are increasing the authorized users. The current contract is for 1,400 users. Our current authorized sworn strength is 1,658. So this amendment would increase the number of authorized users to correlate with our authorized strength.
Okay, and the other part of that first question was, or kind of a follow-up is, was there any consideration or conversations about, instead of upgrading everybody all at once, phasing in over time so that there's not a large hit financially?
So the cost is not contingent on a phase-in. What it would be willing to do is we would turn in the Taser 7 devices that we have now. It would immediately outfit everybody with the Taser 10. And then, as we mentioned a minute ago, there's a $2.6 million credit that is being applied towards that contract amendment. And I think from a non-fiscal perspective, the important piece is that having that technology available here and now, because again, I'd hate to have another encounter kind of like the ones I've described where, we possibly could have effectively incapacitated that subject, take them into custody without having to use any additional force, but for the fact that we hadn't upgraded yet.
And the credit that you mentioned, is that because we're turning in the old equipment and for the new one, or is that something that the Axon is giving to us to incentivize us to go with the new equipment?
I wasn't there for contract negotiations. I know that the credit is applied in part for the trade-in of the turning those 7s in and getting the 10s, and that's being applied towards the amendment. I didn't negotiate the details of the contract, so I can't speak to their motivation there.
Okay, so my last question might be for the administration then. And I apologize because I wasn't in Budget and Finance yesterday, but this question is, when was the contract finalized? And are we getting it now because it was finalized now, or just when was this contract ready to be voted on?
Sorry, Brian. There you go.
It's Metro Legal. I don't think we have anybody from our legal department here. It is our understanding that this is an amendment. I can find that information for you and report it back.
Okay, so what's the cons of maybe deferring this bill so that if there's any more questions or concerns, the individuals can get those questions answered? Like, is this one of those situations where if this doesn't pass on third reading in 2 weeks, that, what we are constantly told by administration time and time again is, the world will end and everything will go to hell in a handbasket if we don't do this right now?
Yes, I'll defer to Deputy Gilder in the back.
So I was asked, we discussed this last night. The discussion that we had was, timeline was, we were testing out and reviewing this technology around summertime. It first came on to my radar that it was going through the procurement process around September, which was your recess. We worked diligently with procurement to get this on as early as possible. In fact, I hope to get it on a meeting earlier, but just timeline-wise, it couldn't be done. But again, I also thought it was going to be a resolution vote, but given the length of the contract, it's an ordinance. So, because I'm obviously mindful of that concern, I know council has, which is, the one thing about it being an ordinance with 3 readings is we do have some time to help get questions answered, and certainly we're available to do that all the way through third reading. So.
Okay, I appreciate that, and thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Let me get Councilmember Huffman.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Chief Gilder, if you don't mind, I've got a few questions for you. First off, just for transparency's sake, I've discussed a few questions with Deputy Chief Gilder throughout the course of the week. I appreciate your time and your efforts, sir, in being as detailed as possible. One thing I want to follow up on in regards to something that Councilmember Bradford just asked, and really want everybody to take heart of this. So the increase in total number of tasers is 258. That's correct?
The increase in users, yes, we're increasing from 1,400 to 1,658. So
those 258 users right now, is it safe to say that those are officers that do not have a taser that are carrying a firearm?
So we do currently have a shortage of tasers. We actually have 50 Taser 7s on loan from Taser right now at no cost because of this contract amendment going on to try and carry us through, because we are going to have to buy more, yes. And all those officers, every officer has a firearm, but for these loan devices, we would not have a sufficient number of tasers to deploy to all officers.
So right now, even with the loaned devices, there's a shortage that...
We're okay now with the loan devices, but for that, we would be short. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Moving on with questions. We discussed de-escalation training that's associated with the use of tasers, a significant amount. And if my colleagues have looked over the contract, you've noticed that there is a significant amount regarding virtual reality technology, headsets, goggles, things like that. Could you describe the de-escalation training as it stands now versus what that would look like if this amendment passed?
Sure. So obviously we engage in de-escalation training. We have. It's been in our policy for longer than I've been employed there, in fact, over 21 years. And so even more now than ever, it's a huge factor. And Chief Drake has pressed the training academy on that, and we incorporate it into multi-facets of our training. But what I was explaining earlier is that, we have to have officers on the street. We have to have officers covering events. So officers come in once a year for annual in-service training. They receive 40 hours of training, but they're getting updates on all sorts of subjects. And so while de-escalation is part of that, one of the great benefits of this contract is this virtual reality scenario-based training, which, for those of you that don't know, scenario-based training is kind of the gold standard of police training now, because it forces you to react to situations, de-escalate, use verbal skills, things like that. And so what this does is allow us to move that training environment into the precincts. So officer gets there early for roll call training, has a few minutes to kill, can go in there and utilize the virtual reality training and get trained up on that. They're pre-made scenarios. They're already purchased as part of the deal. Training Academy reviews those, make sure they comport with our policy and law. And then those officers can get that training in, and it also documents that training, and which is useful, I know, because I work a lot with Metro Legal when it comes to litigation, and so training is a critical component of that as well.
As far as that training is concerned, and this may be a question for Axon, and if it is, that's okay, because I've got one more for them, then I'm done.
Okay.
Thank you. The question around the de-escalation training, if I have the headset on, is there a way to speed through it to show that it's completed? Or do you actually have to certify or take a test?
Is there a way to speak to the actual training being completed for that specific officer going through?
Yeah, that's correct. So let's say I'm an officer, I put the headset on, I'm going through the training, and I expedite that training and still get credit for it without any type of test or certification?
No. So one of the unique things about the virtual reality environment is it is completely dictated by the scenario that we're going through, and we're also eliminating any distractions. So I can't be on a cell phone at the same time that I'm within a headset. I also can't progress that through that scenario faster by just kind of clicking through. If you've seen any other like online type training, at the end of that, I would add there's a record of, depending on how the department wants to keep record of that, a record that training's been completed and how it's been completed as well.
Yeah. And I just had to ask that because I've got some employees that will do that, and we have to bust them time to time. So thank you. And last question, and this is really around the safety and effectiveness of the tasers between the 7 and the 10. Could you walk us through the minimum voltage required before the taser is effective for the 7 and the 10?
So to directly answer the question, the minimum voltage required, I'm not 100% sure on. Right now, and voltage, when we talk about electricity, is really what's pushing the electricity. So it's the mover of the electricity itself. The Taser 7 model has the ability to physically display an arc of electricity. It's actually can be run up to 50,000 volts. The Taser 10 is a lower voltage device up to 1,000 volts. Actually, we don't have the ability to actually display a volt of, any physical volt of electricity at that point.
Let me get Council Member or Vice Chair Taylor first. Oh, there you go.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I would like to have a better understanding of what the ramifications are financially for the recession or the cancellation of the current contract that we are in.
Who wants to take that? Deputy Chief, is that you?
What are the financial ramifications of canceling the current contract? So this is an amendment to that contract. So it doesn't cancel it, it amends it, and we have a 10-year extension. It locks in the pricing, which is the largest benefit, I think, because obviously annually pricing tends to increase, which is what's going to happen come 2024. Our fiscal looked at it and determined that it's over the life of the contract about a $5.33 million savings.
Thank you, Chief. And then do we have, how many contracts of about 10 years, I guess, do we have in Metro? I mean, I don't know if that's, maybe we need to do some homework on that, but that's pretty decent size.
Director's going to look into that. Okay, let me get Council Member Prep Team. We've got a couple of folks behind you, so I'll have to keep you limited because we do have time certain to be out of here by 5:15 at the very latest. Oh, hang on one second. You're not on. There you go.
Okay, I'll make this very quick. How many tasers do we have under the current contract, including the 50 tasers that are on loan?
Oh, okay. So real quick, one thing I want to correct something that I said. It is a 5-year contract with a 5-year option, which brings it to a 10-year lock. So I misspoke a little bit when I said it's a 10-year contract. It's 5 years and 5 years. And I'm sorry. How many do we have on hand? Right. 1,400 total.
Okay, 1,400 total.
Yes, sir.
So currently, MNPD is funded for 1,658 officers with a shortage of 180 positions. Are all of those positions patrol officers, or where are?
So that is our 1658 is our total authorized strength. That includes me. That is not all. That does not mean there's 180 people short in patrol. We, for instance, in my division, my bureau, right now I have vacancies within my bureau because we just, we have to make an analysis of where we need people. So no, those are not all contained within patrol necessarily. But unfortunately, patrol does bear the brunt of a lot of vacancies, and that's why we're running 8 academy classes a year and trying to get those vacancies filled, and we're actually making pretty good progress on that as well.
So just so I understand, MNPD currently has 1,400 tasers, and then their current staffing minus the 180 short is currently 1,478. Is that fair?
I think I see where you're going. Yeah. So, sometimes the tasers, if they're damaged, they broke, something malfunctions, we have to send them back. So they're not all necessarily in commission at the time. I worked at the academy for some time, and I remember it's a steady stream of people that come in. Hey, we had something happen. We were in a car wreck, or I fell and I broke my taser, and they have to bring it in and get it replaced. So it's not all that. although they are issued to all officers, I may not have one, but I think if that's where you're going is, yeah, we have to have some on hand for replacements.
Yeah, so my last question for the rest of the night in committee is, are there currently any patrol officers who do not have any tasers?
No, and that is, like I said, in part because we're utilizing that loan of 50 devices. But the answer is no. No patrol officers right now do not have a taser.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to Councilmember Weiner.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate it. Just got a couple of questions. There were some questions about your AI ethics board. Can you speak to and this would be for Axon, can you speak to the history, the engagement, and the continued work that you do with that ethics board that your board of directors brought on board, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So there was a question that came up last night in regards to the board, and just a clarification. That was not our board of directors. It was the AI ethics board, which was a board that was established to essentially provide additional oversight over different AI technologies that we're exploring. I am not a legal representative of the company, but what I can provide to the committee is an immediate response following this, as far as a company response.
Thank you. I appreciate it. What I do understand is from the digging that I did, because frankly, whenever there's a claim like that against somebody that we're doing business with, that's going to pique my interest, and I'm going to start doing some digging. And I think what you'll find if you go to www.axon.com/EEAC, what you'll find is a reference to this board that was just created to weigh in on their use of AI. Quite frankly, I think there ought to be more people weighing in on the use of AI in a variety of instances. So I saw that as a good thing. But it wasn't their board of directors that bailed. My second question. Axon releases new taser technology every 2 years. I thought it was 5. Is that right or wrong?
Yeah. So if we look at the past 30 years of our company, in regards to law enforcement models, which is what we're talking about today, of the taser device, we are on iteration number 8. In the last decade, we are on a cadence of every 5 years. There's a new device that's been released at that point.
Thank you so much. That's all I've got.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Weiner. Councilmember Nash, let me get you. Okay.
I don't so much have a question as I really would like to encourage all the members of this committee to support this bill. The mere fact that the Taser 7 maximum range is 25 feet, and that's not very far. Somebody with an edged weapon can be 25 feet very quickly. Taser 10, you get 45 feet. That gives a lot more safety edge to both the subject that we're trying to get under control and for the police officer. I know there's been some discussion about the finances, and I think overall, if Chief Kilder mentioned that over the long haul, this really saves us somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million over the life of this contract for this much improved version of a taser. It's well worth it. And I say to you, what price a life? This truly has the ability to be much more effective than the past taser has been. I've seen it. I've watched it. You fire that thing, and those 2 darts go out, and sometimes they make it, and sometimes they don't. This gives us an instant opportunity to correct if one of those misses, so that we can use this to effectively bring someone under control without having to resort to an escalation of force. I think this is very important for us and ultimately save us from a couple of lawsuits, I suspect, down the road if we don't do something like this.
Thank you, Councilmember Nash. We've got time for 4 questions, and one of them is going to be mine. Councilmember Porterfield.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Chair. I'll try to be super quick. Chief Gilder, do we have how many times the Taser 7s have misfired and how many times there have been missed hits?
So I was, again, I think nomenclature, let me make sure we're talking about the same thing. A misfire typically is when something fires and it's unintended. But I suspect what you mean is how many times we've missed when we tried to deploy the taser, but there was a miss. Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, like it didn't connect, or there was an issue with the clothes were too thick or whatever.
So we track taser deployments, and yes, I can look that data up. I don't have it on hand with me tonight, but yes, we do track how many times an officer attempted to utilize a taser but did not achieve neuromuscular incapacitation, either fully or partially.
Okay, thank you. How many times have the tasers been used and it was not effective, so it then resulted in an escalation in the use of force that resulted in deadly force?
Again, I would have to dig into that to see, and I would need to know what time period you would want to look at. Like I said,
From the Taser 7, so I apologize. So since 2022.
Both. I need to look at the date range on there. I would have to look at that up and get back with you. I don't want to speculate on the.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
With the loan devices, never mind, I'm not even gonna ask that question. I'm just gonna make my points real quick, Madam Chair. It was just stated that there was gonna be a cost savings. When we were in budget and finance, we were told there is no cost savings. There is a cost avoidance that is different from a cost savings. Our colleague just asked, what is the price of a life? I hope you all remember that question when we're voting on things like affordable housing and Metro General, because apparently we only care about the cost of a life when it's for issues like this. I'm strongly voting against this. These tasers are less than 2 years old. When I met with Axon, I met with 3 representatives from Axon as well as a lobbyist, and when we had this conversation, I asked about the nature of this just coming before the body, because there are 2 more readings and they want this passed by the end of this year, which means that there's no room for a deferral, and we just had an issue with that at our last meeting 2 weeks ago about getting legislation at the last minute and not wanting to have that to happen. When I asked that question, I asked how long had they been working on this. Axon's representative told me since April 2023. When I asked him why this was just coming before the body, he told me that they did not want to bring it before the last council. So for whatever reason, they've had this and it's just now coming to us. That's very unacceptable. We just bought these tasers for $6.5 million for a 5-year contract for tasers that last 5 years. We got them in February of 2022. And in April of 2023, so that's a year and 2 or 3 months later, we are now saying that that technology is so antiquated that we need to spend $18 million, almost 3 times as much, to get better technology. When these tasers were only deployed 44 times in 2022, it's not like these tasers are something that's getting used every day. These tasers are barely being used, thankfully, because we don't want use of force. So we do thank MNPD for doing everything that they can to de-escalate and to ensure that these tasers are not being used on a consistent basis. But this is very fiscally irresponsible. We do not have to have the shiniest, newest, greatest thing. There's nothing wrong with the tasers that we have now. And at the end of that 5-year contract in 2027, we could look at getting new tasers. And to answer that question about how often are those tasers, he did just answer for the last 10 years. However, before that, they were doing new tasers every 2 years. From 2009 to 2013, they did new tasers every 2 years. And from 2013 to 2023, they did new tasers every 5 years. So there's no reason to think that in 2027, there won't be a newer version of this model of the taser. And we're going to be right back in the same situation. This body is going to be back in the same situation, being told that we have to pass something at the last minute, just like they did last year at the end of 2021, beginning of 2022. We were told that it had to be passed right then. There was no room for a deferral. At that point in time, we were told that they needed the Taser 7s because it was better technology. That was the technology that was needed. We're being told that again tonight. So I can guarantee that if we continue with what we have, we're going to be in the same situation. I mean, if we buy this new technology, we're going to be in the same situation where they're going to be asking for more and better technology. We never tell MNPD no to anything. We tell parks no. We tell schools no. We tell our employees no. 2 years ago, the fire trucks in my district were being held together by duct tape. We don't get new textbooks for our students every 2 years. We don't get new laptops for our teachers every 2 years. Why do we think that we have to get new technology when there's nothing wrong with this antiquated technology? So I'm voting no. I have some more talking points, but for the sake of the time of this committee, I'm going to stop now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Porterfield. Deputy Chief Gilder, one question that I had gotten that I said I would ask, what percentage of taser use is on unarmed people? And do you have any idea?
I absolutely can look that up for you. The taser is considered an intermediate weapon, so it's not that, in fact, if someone is armed with a edge weapon or a firearm, that is a deadly force threat. Obviously, with a deadly force threat of a firearm, we don't pull out a taser because they could shoot us and kill us. With an edge weapon, if we have another officer available, that is an option, and that's what we've tried to use, and we have used it successfully, and unfortunately, sometimes it wasn't successful. But so I can look up that data for you.
Okay.
And just real quick on one point that we just covered with the new technology, I'd point out, we carried the X26P model from 2013 all the way until January 2022. The 7 came out in 2018. We're not trying to get the newest and shiniest thing just because it just came out. We carried the old model as long as we could until it wasn't supported anymore. And then the contract itself has a refresh provision in there. So if there is a model that comes out after that 5-year iteration, we would be eligible to upgrade to that model under the current contract terms. So
Would that be for the same price?
that's my understanding, yes.
Okay, thank you. And then last 2 questions, and then we're going to vote. Councilmember Evan Siegel. Oh, sorry. Here we go.
Thank you, Chair, for recognizing me, even though I'm not on this committee. Deputy Chief Gilder, I think what I understood yesterday, I just want to ask because I know it was in passing, and we talked about budget, but we didn't talk about safety. So this, am I right? It goes from about 25 feet, which I'd say is almost exactly the distance between you and me right now, based on my rough estimation. It's going to be probably right at 25 feet if I were to stand a little closer to my colleague.
I would tell you that I would be very uncomfortable trying to deploy a Taser 7 on you from this distance.
Okay.
Just because the further you get, the further the spread on those probes.
And the 45 feet or so would go to the chair of this committee, I think, is about the distance we're probably talking about. So that's one improvement. And then the other, I think I understood, and this is my last question, I promise, that it goes from about 75% effectiveness to 90% on paper. Is 75% effectiveness consistent with the statistics that MNPD sees?
Again, I would have to go back. I was asked a similar question a minute ago about situations where it's not effective and again, effectiveness meaning we didn't get good probe contact. So I want to be clear on that. It's not that the device doesn't work. It works perfectly provided you get the probes, 2 probes placed properly. So I would need to go back and pull that data. I'm more than happy to do that. But I would tell you that it's certainly not uncommon to have situations, again, because we're in dynamic confrontations with individuals. People are moving, we're moving, to have a probe miss. So that is not uncommon. And that's, again, particularly because you're trying to place 2 probes at the exact same time. And like I was saying a minute ago, I wouldn't be comfortable at this distance because the further away I am, the more those probes spread, the further they have to go. With the 10, I deploy those probes individually. So I can place probe and then place the second probe. And so I'm not as worried about spread and distance. Plus, it does have a longer range, as you noted.
I would love those statistics.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councilmember Evan Siegel. Last, Councilmember Vice Chair Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I had a few questions I'll not ask. This is not amendable on 3rd reading. Is that correct? For the record. For the record. Thank you. So this is not amendable if it passed today. I do have a question for this fire sale at the end of the year that we're seemingly having. With the conversation, Chair, I would like to ask Mr. Exon, I can't remember his name, I didn't write it down, I apologize, to see if they'll give us an extension on the price that we have now for a greater discussion of this topic into the new year.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Josh, just as a reiteration of the name. So as of right now, we're actually getting ready to publish our next year's pricing. This has been consistent with what we've done for the last 30 years. So we do know there's a change in pricing going into next year and an impact. As far as timing, I would defer to Metro. I do know that there were some attempts made to bring this a little bit earlier at earlier meetings. In the timeline that was discussed earlier, back in April was when evaluation started. There was funding that was needed to be lined up and appropriated. And then, again, I would defer to Metro on the timing to when it was brought.
So is that a no? I don't mean to speak directly to you. Sorry, Chair. So can we ask him, is that a no or yes?
Go ahead and ask.
Okay.
There would be an impact in the total pricing of the contract itself. Yes.
So we would wait. So if we were feeling good about this, but we wanted more time, we would still be charged extra at the beginning of January 2024. After that, is that what we're saying?
Yeah. So yes.
Thank you.
And while you're back there, I guess I have another question related to your sales process. So are you the actual account executive that's responsible for our account relationship, or are you another designee of the company?
One of them, yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So could you share, I guess, the genesis of the follow-up kind of related to this particular upgrade? And was it you or somebody from the company that reached out to MNPD to talk about the new solution and the change in product offering? Or was that something that we proactively went to you about?
So somewhat of that answer I would defer to MNPD. We formally announced this new TASER model at the beginning of this year, end of January. And like I said, that April timeframe or summer timeframe that Deputy Chief Gilder had mentioned, I believe we received the request from MNPD to come in and start discussions around what that looked like as far as switching over.
And I guess from a sales practice, how far in advance do you look at your contract terminations and are looking for, changing the contract, upgrading products? Like in my company, we're looking 2 years out. How far out do you all look whenever you're looking to change solutions with a city?
It is very, very dependent. This has been a device, as Deputy Chief mentioned, that has seen some pretty significant increases to how the device operates. So some of those processes have been shrunk this year with some other cities around the country, but sometimes it takes longer. It really is situation dependent.
Thank you. And I will give Councilmember Porterfield one last shot, and then we're voting.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I did just want to put out for the record, I know the response was just that prices will be updated. And I believe, if I heard correctly, you said this has been the practice for the last 30 years. I can get a head nod. Was that correct? So I do want to make sure that the body is aware of the facts of what happened in 2022 when the body voted on this on February the 1st, 2022. And we were told, not me, because I was actually in the hospital at the time, but when I went back and watched what happened at that meeting, the administration, which at that time was Mr. Jameson, if you're familiar with him, stated that we had to pass that because we had to get that end of the year pricing, and they worked it out with Axon to be able to get that pricing in January, but because the meeting fell on February 1st, they were able to extend it out on February 1st. So I don't think that it is factual that they cannot extend this out for a month or two when we just did that, when we granted them this $6.5 million contract that we're not done paying for yet. We just did that in 2022. So if they could, they would. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Porterfield. With that, we'll go ahead and move forward for the vote. Since I know that there's going to be no's, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand instead of saying aye. If you're on the committee, you don't need to speak or acknowledge me if you're not on the committee. All those in favor of BL 2023-113, please raise your hand. We've got 1, 2, looks like we've got 3. Okay, all those opposed, 1, 2, 3. 5, 6, 7. All right, and I'm 8. So opposed or 8. Anyone not voting? Or I got 1 not voting. Okay, Councilmember Taylor. With that, we recommend disapproval. We're adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.